Are we good, Dal?
We are good.
Okay. Welcome to the Castaic Union School District School Board meeting of June 24th, 2021. We are returning to open session at 6:16 p.m. And we have nothing to report from closed session, or no action was taken. And we will now start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Doyle is going to lead us in that.
Please rise. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle.
You're welcome.
We will now vote to approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Richards, second by Ms. Pearson. We will now vote. Ms. Maxon?
Aye.
Mr. Richard?
Aye.
Ms. Pearson?
Aye.
And an aye by myself. Motion passes. And we just want to note that Mr. Malcolm is absent this evening. We hope he can make it next. We miss him. Is not feeling well tonight. So under special items and recognitions, Ms. Maxon was going to tell us a few things for a spotlight on success.
Okay. Yes, I always have fun things to share. So it was really great to see that and to hear that our summer schools have started this week. I'm really excited about that. The 3 programs that are going on. I'm really thankful and grateful for the team that has worked so diligently to put it together. I know it's a lot of work, and I'm really grateful we were able to financially provide that program for our kids, especially this year, and especially since we didn't do it last year. So thanks for everybody. I know it was Ed Services, Business Services, thanks CE and CMS for hosting, and I know the bus drivers, the custodians. I am just so appreciative. I know the kids are in good hands. Also, I was so excited to see the Teacher Clarity pictures on Facebook, and all that looked like they were having such a great time. Those were some of my most favorite moments, because that's when, the work and dust and the smoke was really, they're really motoring and getting ready. And I know it's all because they think about kids and they want to do what's best for kids. So thanks, Kim and your team, for putting that together, and all that, your first group that went through it. I'm really looking forward to hearing how wonderful it is when the other groups go through. And then lastly, it was really cool to be at Live Oak. The Monday school was out. The Monday right after school was out. I was helping some of my friends move because they're doing all that moving. To see our tech team, bam, already out there working on smart boards and changing things over. So Dell and his team, they were ready. The custodians were just so helpful. It was just such a really positive day. I love that when our teams come together, and even though it was a lot of work, believe me, it was a lot of work. I was tired. I went to bed early that night. It was still such a positive day. So thanks, everybody. Great job.
Thank you, Ms. Maxon. We will now hear comments from our CTA president, Patty O'Mara.
Mrs. Maxon, that Teacher Clarity was extremely beneficial. So it was really good. What I have to say is I'm just hoping the teachers are just relaxing and enjoying their summer. That's all from me today.
Thank you. I hope that they are relaxing and enjoying their summer too. Everyone deserves it. So, okay. And then Ms. Boontich from CSEA.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I don't have too much from last time. As Kim mentioned last time, summer school started, and I know a lot of our classified are working there and working hard. I've had the pleasure of spending more time with Ms. Tredick and Ms. Moynihan and Linda Nardiello, who is our office person. And so wonderful getting to work with them. And as you guys know, our thing is up on your agenda tonight for CSEA, and we're looking forward to that going through. And I'm sorry, I just have to give a shout out to my location, Castaic Middle School. They were recognized last night as a school to watch in a ceremony, and I couldn't be prouder to work there. And the teachers work hard, the classified work hard, so it was really great to see. So thanks, and have a great summer, everyone.
Thank you, Jody. Yes, we're very fortunate. All of our school sites are awesome. And I just feel like we have the best middle school in the entire, like all the best schools in the whole district. And so we appreciate the work that went into that. Okay, yes, Janine.
I'm allowed to interject. This is the 6th redesignation for our middle school, and they have been a part of this for 20 years. So we're truly pioneers of the, and thank you, Jody, for reminding me of that. I should have had that in my notes, but yeah, I am so proud of the CMS team. That's really awesome news. Okay, I just wanted you guys to know that data.
Thank you, Janine. All right. Ms. Ortega, were there any advance requests to address the board?
No, ma'am, none received.
Okay, thank you. So we will then move on to presentations and reports, and we will first hear from Mr. Doyle.
Well, this is our last meeting for the very interesting 2021 school year that has been like no other, right? This time last year, we were feverishly planning for our hybrid model and what that was going to look like. We had a stakeholder group that we met with each week, and we were trying to figure out how we were going to bring kids back. Unbeknownst to us, that wasn't going to fully happen until April. But here we are. I'm so proud of our teams. We made it through the last 8 weeks of school. We had one case across our 4 schools, and that was not spread within our schools. So all of our protocols worked. This morning, we had the most recent update from LA County Public Health and Dr. Gilcheck. And really, for the most part, the majority of what used to be mandates or required protocols are now becoming recommendations or suggested protocols. The one thing that will stay, or a couple of things that will stay, at least until further notice, until CDC and CDPH change their recommendations. For sure, masks are required in all schools. It's interesting, I know Charmin and I have been following a debate on the listserv today, and it's about split 50-50 in terms of whether the district office personnel and other non-school-based employees would be required to wear their mask per the OSHA guidelines. And so, you know, many of the districts are, if you're vaccinated and you show verification of vaccination, they're not requiring that. And the other districts are really the position I've taken, which is, you know, we still have young children that do come into our office on a regular basis. We do have employees at our district office that are not vaccinated. And I really don't want to be the vaccination police and have to figure that out. So for now, the time being, we're going to require masks in all of our district properties. When you're outside, you're allowed to take them off. That includes children when we start back up and in the summer school. They're supposed to maintain their social distancing piece. The really good news is we're now allowed to maximize max capacity our buses. They recommend that we socially distance, but it's not a mandate. So we can fill our buses up and get more kids back to school who struggled with that all of last year. Also, our preschool and early childhood guidelines are opening up and allowing some more flexibility for them. So there's a lot of good things on the horizon. We're still going to require the screenings for both of our staff and students. Literally, it takes 5 to 10 seconds, as many of you know, that you've had to do the Parent Square screening. So a lot of good news on the horizon moving forward. The one thing we're all a little frustrated about is not having the parameters for what our distance learning program for those families that would choose that look like yet still. So we're hoping they're going to sort that out and give us the guidelines so we can work on a program. But other than that, I am excited. I too am leaving the house at 4 a.m. tomorrow to go to Burbank to fly to North Carolina to see my granddaughter. So super excited, haven't seen her since December. So I hope everyone gets a little bit of a break in whatever you do and some downtime, because it'll be a whirlwind when we get back right into planning for the next year. So that's all for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. We will now hear from educational services report. Ms. Tredick.
Good evening, everyone. Ed Services is as busy as usual, gearing up for next year. And as you've heard mentioned this evening, we are in full swing now with our ESY Impact Summer Program and Jumpstart to Kindergarten. We have over 205 students enrolled. Not everyone has attended yet, but I'm sure we'll have more next week now that we have bus capacity increase. So that's good news for us. And we have over 50 staff members, including our bus drivers and our custodial staff. And the host schools, thank you so much, CMS and Castaic Elementary, for helping us out and making us feel welcomed. And thank you so much to Nicole Moynihan and Jackie Vasquez, who are really running the whole show. So it's very off to a great successful start. And thank you, Cindy Lederer and Angelica Harris and Mallory Jones for the behind the scenes work, and Leslie Garcia too. Tonight, I wanted to share with you the one of the components that is required to be an information item when the LCAP, on the night of the LCAP adoption, is the local performance indicator measures. And so I'm going to share my screen and talk about that for a moment. And I think here we are. Are we good? Okay. And so the local performance indicators, there's a self-reflection required annually when we bring the LCAP to the board. And the state adopted these measures back in January of 2020 and said that we must consider these moving forward. And it applies to all local education agencies, and it needs to ensure that we are collecting data in order to measure our program and actions of our LCAP and the success. So on the dashboard, this looks familiar. This is an old version because we did not have a dashboard update last year for 2020. So this is 2019. Many of our actions for our LCAP are measured here on the dashboard. But for those state priorities that are not reflected in the dashboard, those are the local indicators. So you see that the implementation of academic standards, parent and family engagement, the local climate survey, and the access to broad course of study, those are all based on our own self-reflection of our indicators and how we measure our success in those areas. So the performance standards that we require to look at are these as follows. We have number 1, which is teachers and clean facilities. Number 2, the implementation of standards. Number 3, parent and family engagement. 6, school climate, and 7, access to broad. We do not 9 or 10. Those are for county offices of education. That are missing. Number 4 is pupil achievement. Number 5 is pupil engagement. And number 8 is other pupil outcomes. Those are all captured in those speedometer looking things on those ways. And these are our local indicator measures. And just so the board knows, this is something that is a non-consent item. It is shared with you, and it will be posted on our dashboard. Self-reflection.
Kim, I'm sorry, can I interrupt you for a second?
Absolutely.
There seems to be some audio issues. I don't know if you have a piece of paper or something that's touching the microphone, but
Oh, you know
like,
what? I have my notes right here.
yeah, it's like making it hard to hear. It's like all we can hear
I
is
haven't used
that
them,
noise.
so let me move them out.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
I'm glad you
I
said
was like,
something.
who's unmuted? And no one was unmuted.
Oh, it would be me touching. Yeah, I have my notes, but I'm not using them, so I just put them away.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
Thank you for telling me. So priority 1 is all about the correct assignments of teachers. And so we have everyone is correctly assigned. We have no misassignments. All of our students have materials, and our facilities are in excellent or good repair condition. Priority 2 is all about the academic standards. And so when you look at this, number 1 would be the lowest, and that means you're in the exploration and research phase. Number 2 is you're beginning to have the development phase. Number 3 is you've initially implemented it. 4 is full implementation, and 5 is full implementation plus sustainability. And so you can see here that we are just now starting to implement the next generation science standards, and then we still are working on our social history, social science. And this is very similar to what we had in our 2019 dashboard. We're looking at our standards here. You can see, I'm sorry, these should all be 3s over in this column. But again, that is the instructional materials that are available in classrooms. We have programs like collaboration time or focused walkthroughs related to these standards. So we are on the ball with ELA and math, but we are working on and have room to grow in ELD, which is English language development, and next generation science, and also history, social science. Here we are now with our career technical education, health education, PE, physical and performing, visual and performing arts, and then world language. So you can see that is something that we have not really looked at. We still are exploring, researching, but one of our potential barriers could be the access to additional funding to support staff in that role. Priority 2 is a big one. It continues when you're talking about the engaging of activities for professional learning around teachers and staff as a whole, individual, and then also providing support for anything teachers have not yet mastered. We are fully implementing our standards. Our teachers are working hard. We just are working on teacher clarity now to move us to that next level of sustainability. Looking at building relationships for the family and parent engagement, priority of number 3, you can see that building relationships and understanding each family's needs and also providing two-way communication opportunities. We are a very strong family-focused district. When we look at partnerships and building partnerships and encouraging and engaging activities with parents, you can see, again, very strong areas in all of those. One thing that we are really proud of is that our parents and our teachers and our staff work really well together to make sure that we improve student outcomes. Seeking input from our parents, we have multiple stakeholder groups. We still are working on our advisory groups, understanding that they have the role in decision making and helping them. We really need to build up a little bit more participation with our DLAC and ELAC. So there's a couple of areas where we have full implementation, but we still don't have the level that we strive for in those areas. Priority 6 is all about the data. This portion on the dashboard is going to be a narrative, and it will include the information from the Healthy Kids survey. And really what the data confirms is that the staff is committed to building relationships with our students, and our parents, our teachers, and our kids feel that. Number 7 is also going to be a narrative on the dashboard. And it's really about the broad course of study. So it's how do we prove that students have access? And that's looking at master schedules and balanced classes, the school accountability report card, all the topics and subjects that are offered at the classes and that are taught, looking at any barriers that we might have, and then also how the stakeholder group influences our decisions in making, in offering courses for kids. So that's all part of a narrative to explain priority 7. And that is it for me. I'm going to stop the share unless you need me to go back to a slide. But did you have any questions or comments about that? It's really,
Kim, I was curious, maybe Janine can add to this too, just because her role in the past. But I was just curious, have any of these statistics or numbers changed much pre-COVID versus during COVID? When you think about connectedness, and that relationship to the community. I was just curious. I know last year was such a unique year, so.
So I can tell you that most of the dashboard information that I shared tonight is from the work that Ms. Maxon did last spring or last late winter. But one thing that has increased based on the this past year is the connectedness and the relationships between our families and our school staff. That has increased. School safety has increased. So it seems like one of the very positive outcomes of this recent pandemic experience is that our families and staff improved communication and have much better relationships.
Yeah, all right, perfect. Thanks, Kim.
I mean, our teachers were in your living rooms, right? So that would be the end of the Ed Services report for this evening. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kim. It's really exciting to see all the stuff that's happening and around the district and all the professional development and all the things that are happening. So it's exciting to see that. We will now hear our business services report from Ms. Hodson.
Good evening. This evening, I had kind of hoped at our last board meeting that we would have a budget update about what was happening with the state budget. And we knew that when we adopted today's budget this evening, it maybe would be out of date already, but lo and behold, it is not, because we don't have any details from the state budget. So there will not be an additional budget presentation this evening. So I apologize for that, because I'm sure you're all looking forward to that. Mr. Garcia sent out a lengthy board update about many items that are on the agenda. So unless there's a question for him, he is not going to do any additional updates, because I've asked Adam Bauer from Fieldman and Rollup to be here to talk about 2 agenda items. And he is going to do his presentation during this section. And then hopefully you can ask any questions so he can take off before the action items. So unless there's another question for Mr. Garcia or for myself, I'm going to turn it over to Adam. And I think Adam Dell is going to start with the general obligation bond.
Great. And thank you, Dell. And thank you for sending the revised Zoom. That was very helpful to get in. Also, just want to take a moment to acknowledge Rachel Chang Quay. She's one of the team members that has been working really hard on all these items with us. So if you, the general obligation bond, we've been working on this since the voters approved it in 2012. We are on series 2021 that we're looking at issuing now. If we could turn to the next slide, please. What I've shown you in the past is these interest rates, and it's the municipal market data curve, which is it's like our Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's what we use to monitor how governmental entities' bonds are trading. And so what you probably notice is it looks a lot like a financial graph, ups and downs along the way. But what you probably stands out to you is about 1/3 from the right on the first chart, that big spike in interest rates. And what that was what a lot of us call the sell everything rally. So investors said, all we want is cash, and we don't want municipal bonds, we don't want stocks, we don't want oil. That's when the price per barrel of oil went negative. So you saw every type of asset class just get dumped, which caused the interest rates on the bonds to go up dramatically. But then very quickly, investors realized that that wasn't the best place to put your money, and they came right back in and started buying municipal bonds. And that's really what that chart to the far right on this slide tries to demonstrate, is the big spike, and then kind of quickly it settled down. You saw a bit of an increase in March of 2021. And what you're seeing there is a lot of talk about inflation, that, there's a lot of talk about spending bills and things like that. And so at first investors said, we want higher yields, but then that backed off very quickly. Like even now you're seeing the 10-year treasury, whereas it was as high as about 1.8, it's now below about 1.5. Well, same thing here with these municipal bonds, is they went up a little bit and now they've come back down to near historic lows. And Dell, if we could go to the next slide, there's a chart we try to demonstrate that. That chart to the upper left with light blue bars and a red line on it, what that is that MMD for every one of the maturities. And what we've done is the blue bars represent the range of interest rates each one of those maturities has had going back to 2005. So you can see at one point in time in that time period, the 1 year was close to 4%. And as you can see now, we are at 0.12%. So much, much lower than those. What that red line represents is that MMD as of about your agenda cutoff. So 6/18/2021. And what hopefully you're noticing is that red line is at or near the bottom of those blue bars. And that's really us trying to demonstrate to you just how low interest rates are right now. And so you might ask, why are rates so low right now when there's fear of inflation and so many uncertainties in the world? You go to that chart to the bottom right. This is inflows and outflows into the municipal market bond funds. If it's green, that means money's flowing in. If it's red, that means money's flowing out. And so you see that big spike, kind of negative spike in red. That was at COVID. That was when we all discovered COVID-19 was in the United States. We're shutting schools, we're shutting businesses, and we all discovered Zoom. So then that's, money was flowing out. But what you've hopefully noticed is a lot of green bars around that red bar and a lot of green bars after that red bar. So investors have continued to put money back into municipal bond funds. And once again, you're probably asking why. Well, there's not that many opportunities for wealthy investors to invest without paying taxes on it. And if that investor lives within the state of California, they can have their federal and state income tax on your bonds not taxed. And so there's a big advantage to them. Usually the folks that buy this are the wealthier type. When you add in the state and then you take into consideration the $10,000 SALT deduction versus a lot more before that, these investors feel that even at very low yields, it's worth investing in things like Castaic school district bonds. So that's macro. Now I want to get to the micro, get to more about Castaic and less about the market. So Del, if you wouldn't mind, go to the next slide, please. What we're looking at here is the district's historical assessed valuation. And this does not represent your newspaper that says, the only home you can buy is $900,000 right now. This is not showing that. This is showing assessed value, and there's some Prop 13 really limits the increases in that. So it's a bit lower than that. And so when homes turn over, they tend to go up in assessed value. But you've had very steady assessed value growth. For those that remember me talking about this in 2012, we were actually very disappointed in 2012 and 13 that your assessed value was declining when other districts were starting to see some increases. Well, fortunately, that stopped. And after 2014, we started seeing the regular type of increases we're seeing with many other LA and kind of growing as in value type districts. And so this is a credit positive for us. But we also want to be careful. We don't want to try to project too much in assessed value growth because you have had some periods where you don't grow as quickly as others. Hopefully some of the building activity, the next item we have on the agenda that shows some building activity, help that AV increase over time. And so this is all residential and commercial property, like the district office for taxing purpose has a zero assessed value. It's just the commercial and residential properties that would maintain a positive assessed value. So if we could turn to the next slide, please. What we've listed here is the district's outstanding debt. And the first table shows your general obligation bond. Should you take action this evening, we'll be adding a line item there. We'll be adding the 2021 series from our 2012 election. And then if you also have that COP that we refinanced last year, and we use some of the CFD revenue to repay that every year, but you actually refinanced that last year and provided some savings by refinancing that. Next slide, please. So the election 2012, measure QS, what we had a significant level of support, 64.62. One of the things that the survey said was very important is that we maintain a $19 per $100,000 tax rate, where you're legally allowed to go up to 30, but you did your projections at 19 due to some of the information we found in the survey. We have 2 series have been issued, 2013, 2018, for a total of 20.53 million. You have a remaining 30.465 million. And that chart to the bottom, the numbers represent on the left, represent the amount per $100,000 of tax. The navy and light blue represent the tax rate each one of those series of bonds consumes. And then the red line represents the projection target that we did when we had the measure on the ballot. Any difference, any kind of gap between the bar charts and that red line is our capacity to issue additional series of bonds. So if we go to the next slide, please. And what we're showing here is a whole lot of numbers, but what this shows you is we're looking to get about $5.7 million in projects. In order to do that, we need about $6 million in par amount of that total par I told you about earlier. And then there we show the repayment of it as we go. So next slide, please. That last slide, just to, the county treasurer tax collector has had some conversations with us. So this may change to some degree, but one of the things we've argued with them is that we need to have a lot of flexibility because we have additional series of bonds. They tend to like to see debt amortized very quickly. We all agree with that. The sooner you can pay off debt, the better. But we also need to make sure that we have capacity for those other issuances. So some flexibility on this. We've had some back and forth with the county office. And so now if we can continue on to the next slide. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. That's already been done. So that aqua color now layers in that 2021 series. So this is the aqua is a projection. It does not exist yet today. So that's what we've projected. And like I said, with some of the conversations with the county, that may change to some degree. And also we have not actually priced these bonds in the primary market yet. So that could adjust things as well. One thing I told you to be cautious of is your assessed value. Hopefully what you notice here is we're using a 3.5% assessed value growth factor. This is a little bit lower than what we've used with a lot of other districts. And it's in part because some of the things we experienced in the early 10s when the 12 and 13 weren't going up like some other districts. Next slide, please. Now here's our schedule. This evening, you have the item before you, and should you take action to approve it, that would continue the progress towards moving forward. We have a credit rating. It's kind of an abbreviated presentation because we've been before them so frequently with a lot of the upgrades they've given and also the refunding you did last year. You have done phenomenal with the things that you can manage. I feel so proud to be part of what Castaic has done here. You've improved things so much. To some degree, the rating analysts have acknowledged it and they have moved your rating upward. To some degree, you have a CBO that can go fight and try to push that up even further. I tell you what, I like credit rating upgrades. I think the one person in my career I think likes them even more than me is your chief business officer. She's just saying, when can we get more? And she has the data to back it up. They just need time. We need to continue to push and know that we're going to get it in time. And so hopefully on Monday, we are going to continue to move that ball forward. Hopefully we'll have that rating on July 8th. The county takes a resolution on July 13th. That's kind of why we need that county involvement in our discussions. And then we'd like to be pricing these bonds on around July 21st and have proceeds held at the county, which you could requisition against as early as August 4th. So that's our update. For those who've been on the board quite some time, you've seen that quite a few times. Both Rachel and I are available for any questions. If there's no questions on that, we have something even more confusing, and that's to get into your deal that we have with a CFD. So the next item, Rachel and I have, this was kind of, we brought this to you in January. Rachel and I are very excited. We're making a whole lot of progress on this. It seemed like the developer was moving things, and then they just stopped. And so that was when we, contacted the district and said, that we don't need to rush on this. That we need a developer to catch back up with us. So I think we all should be very happy that the district was ready to move more quickly than the development community on this one. So we have the full-blown presentation from January. I don't think you want me to go through that whole presentation. So what I was going to try to do is just kind of go through the slides, pick a few things that were very important from the slides. And then if you want me to slow down, stop me. But we want to have all the information here just in case. So if we go to that next slide, please. So just want to get some background. Community facilities districts are a way to fund infrastructure. And that's why school districts, cities, and a lot of other entities do it. It's a result of Prop 13 passing, where there was a limitation in how much your ad valorem taxes could go up every year. So next slide, please. School districts get to collect statutory fees. They can't hold up developments, but developers do have to pay these fees. These fees were a negotiation, and that was a calculation that's done, but it doesn't fully offset the cost of new construction is one issue. The second issue is the state is supposed to provide 50% match. The state has not been a timely partner on providing their 50%. And so what we try to do with the CFDs is say, developers, we know you want to do the CFD, but in order to do that, you have to help us because we have a funding shortfall with the current funding mechanisms that we have in place. So in order to do that, you need to pay something in excess of statutory fees. And that's what the developer's done. The developer, should we all approve this, the developer has agreed to pay something in excess of statutory fees. Next slide, please. Really got to that point here is we've asked the developer to pay 20% premium, and these documents establish that should they approve them and sign them as well as you, that they would pay 20% higher fees than they would otherwise be statutorily required to do. Next slide, please. Very specific boundaries. In this case, we have, I think it's 492 units that the development is looking, 497, I'm sorry, that the development is looking to build. This community facilities district would be just around that property. And so I've talked about community facilities districts a few times. What typically happens is there's a lead entity, and that is Hart High School District. In order for Hart High School District to finance fees for other entities, there needs to be a joint community facilities agreement, otherwise known as JCFA. And that's what we're looking to do here is we're looking to do a JCFA and a mitigation agreement. And the JCFA gives the Hart High School District authority to say that they can finance their fees. What the mitigation agreement does is it guarantees that the district gets what we've negotiated for. And so, some of the things I've told you that were really important, we have made sure are in the agreement. I can speak to in a moment. So next slide, please. Let's move on. Let's go to the next slide. I covered that. Covered everything here. Except for that last slide is we would be getting about 4.3 with the current statutory fee estimates versus a 3.6 by entering into these agreements. Next slide, please. A general map of the area, and last time Ms. Hodson was able to actually use this map to explain to you where the property is. So maybe I'll pause a moment where she can give a refresher to that.
Actually, I think I'm going to ask Jaime to do that.
I think everyone know. Oh, well, those of us have been around for a while. This is the old Palmer piece that was designed for a golf course. It's right at the intersection of Hasley and Del Valle. It's currently been graded. Looks like they're starting storm features now. So I think the only thing I'm waiting on is the facing plan. What phase one? When does it start?
Great. I like it. So then if we can go to the next slide, please. So one of the reasons why I was able to start working with you quite a few years ago now was there was a commitment that we made that we'd work with just the district, and we'd always make sure we represented your interest in transactions. And so that when you're doing a transaction with the high school district, the same question comes up is how do we make sure Castaic is protected? And one of the things that we did was we made sure in the agreement, it's section 2.2 of the agreement, we make sure the district gets funded in the same fashion as Hart High School District does. And then while the agreement already covered that, we still made sure they added a sentence so that there's no confusion, or a partial sentence. And the partial sentence is, or if remaining deposits are not sufficient to fund such shortfall in bond proceeds, the shortfall shall be paid for by the owner. So we're saying right up front, if for some reason all the pots of money are not enough to pay Castaic what it's agreed to here, you'll write a check to do that. So that, like I said, it was already covered in the agreement, but we made sure that we added that that portion of the sentence just to make sure that it was covered. Another thing is we have to commit to spend these funds within 3 years. There was a clause that was added by the Hart High School District attorney that tried to put some limits on the Castaic School District if that was not satisfied for some reason, and we got that removed. We said, look, we're going to do a best effort. The district understands the laws, but we're not going to put something punitive in there to Castaic School District if they're not able to meet those obligations. And so oftentimes these agreements, there's a lot of things we're wrestling with. I had to say in this one, they met our requests and worked very efficiently to get this done. So that's what there are 2 items on. So there's 3 total items, a GO one, then there's 2 that follow that. The first one is approval of the JCFA. And then the second one is the approval of the mitigation agreement. I'm sorry, I have those backwards, and that's for good reason. We don't want the JCFA if we don't have the mitigation agreement. So we want to get the mitigation agreement approved first, and then the JCFA after that. So both Rachel and I are also available for questions.
Adam, is this a new company? I know everything stopped last time, but is this a new company as far as the building, or did they just kind of pause and come back?
So what they do, I think it's a new company, but they create LLCs. So it's kind of circling back to who it is. It's WH Castaic 497 LLC. And then the signature block, since we're not the lead agency, we don't deal directly with them, is authorized representative. So not sure if it's the same people as before, but that's who it's listed as now.
Adam, I think it's Williams is taken over the property. It was iStar originally, and Williams. I see their name popping up all over the place now.
Okay, and that's probably what the WH Williams Homes, what that WH stands for in the WH Castaic 497 LLC.
Thank you.
Adam, I appreciate you looking out for the district. My understanding in the past is you were specifically brought on board to look out for our interests because in some of these agreements years back, the district got taken advantage of and we got our money when we got it, not equivalent. So I appreciate you looking out for our interests.
Good. And well, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Rachel.
So if you feel that there's going to be questions for us when the agenda items come up, we're happy to stick around. But if you feel that we've covered the material, we would let you carry on with your meeting without us.
Oh, I think you should stay until 5:45 in the morning.
Okay.
I'm
Thank
good.
you.
I don't
Have a
have
great
any
vacation.
questions. Are there any board members that have questions that they want to ask right now? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
I'll see you on Monday. And that's all for business services.
He left really fast.
Huh?
He left really fast.
I know, he did. He was ready.
We changed our mind.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Hodson, you said you're finished?
Uh-huh.
All right, thank you for your presentation. Thanks for getting Adam here.
Yep. And if you have questions on individual items, I'll be happy to jump on and answer anything as they come up.
Okay, all right, and thanks Jaime for the summary you sent us this week. So we will then now move on to the regular consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve do I need to read the statement? I guess unless the trustee has a question concerning a particular item and asks that it be withdrawn from the consent calendar, the consent items are approved with a single motion by the Board of Trustees. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move.
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Ms. Maxon. Is that a second by Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Okay, second by Ms. Pearson. We will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. All right, we will now move on to our action items, and everyone just take a deep breath. We'll get through this. All right. Item number 1, adoption of the local control and accountability plan, the LCAP. Is there a motion to approve this
I'll
item?
move.
Motion by Mr. Richard,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Maxon. Are there any questions or comments by board members? All right, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Item number 2, adoption of 2021 to 2022 budget with 2020 and 2021 estimated actuals. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
I'll
Motion
second.
by Ms. Pearson, second by Mr. Richard. Are there any questions or comments from board members?
Great budget.
I know. Yeah, thank you. Okay, hearing none, then, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Action item number 3, adoption of resolution number 02/21-27, Community Facilities District number 92-2, annual levy of special taxes for fiscal year 2021 to 2022. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Pearson.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Ms. Maxon. Are there any questions or comments from board members?
This is actually the CFD related to the certificate of participation that we refinanced last summer. This is connected to the construction of Castaic Middle School. It is not the CFD that Adam was talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Just to be completely clear and transparent.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from board members? All right, hearing none, we will now vote. And Mr. Richard, your microphone I think is on a little low, so if you want to turn it up, that'd be great. All right, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Item number 4, adoption of resolution number 20/21-28, general obligation bond issuance and sale. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Maxon,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Pearson. Was there anything you wanted to add to this, Ms. Hodson?
The only thing I will say is once we find out how much the final cost of Live Oak project is, that's when we will determine how we're going to spend the rest of the funds. So our main goal is to get Live Oak finished, and we went and issued enough to hopefully get a couple other small projects done, but we don't know what that will be until we know the cost.
Okay, thank you.
I just have to comment and say that I am super glad that we are finally at this point after our community voting on this project, because this was kind of the big thing, was we were going to redo Live Oak, and it's taken us many years for many different reasons, but I'm super glad that we're finally moving forward and we're at the point that we can do this. I think that that school area and our communities deserve this, because this is what they were told they were going to see.
Thank you for those comments, Ms. Pearson. And you're right. Your comments made me think how a lot of people have really worked to get us to this point, to where we can remodel that school and do other projects and everything. So I just want to thank, everyone in business services and everyone. And it's like, I don't even want to name names because I'll just forget people, but I just want to thank everyone for working on this and getting us to this point, and thank the community for being patient and everything. And so anyway, all right. Are there any other comments or questions from board members? All right, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Double I.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Item number 5, adoption of resolution number 20/21-29, approving a school facilities mitigation agreement and authorizing execution and delivery thereof and other related actions. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Richard,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Pearson. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
I.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Action item number 6, adoption of resolution number 20/21-30, approving a joint community facilities agreement and authorizing execution and delivery thereof and other related activities. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Maxon,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Richard. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
I.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Action item number 7, adoption of resolution number 20/21-31, opening Fund 8, associated student body activities. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Pearson, second by Mr. Richard. Are there any questions or comments from board members?
I do have a question about it. This is the money for ASB, correct?
Correct.
In the past, we have always not been able to sell food on the sites, but a lot of it was selling food. Are we allowed to do that now because it's not being done at the same time food is being sold by food services?
It depends on the timing of when the food is being sold. So that's exactly what is connected. It cannot be competitive. So as long as it's afterwards and outside of the school day and different things. So you have to follow those guidelines. But this action is really about opening Fund 8. So it includes some of the activities, but we are opening Fund 8. So so the ASB funds will actually be shown on our SACS documents and for the budget in the future. It's a new requirement. So we won't actually, the checks won't be issued through us, but you will actually see this on your budget documents moving forward.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
I.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Item number 8, adoption of resolution number 20/21-32, contract for California Department of Education to provide childcare and development services and authorize designated personnel to sign contract documents for fiscal year 2021 to 2022. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Maxon,
Second.
second by Mr. Richard. Are there any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
I.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Number 9, action item number 9, approval of AB 1200 public disclosure for California School Employees Association, CSCA. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Richard.
I'll second.
Was it Ms. Pearson?
No, Ms. Maxon.
Okay, second by Ms. Maxon. Are there any questions or comments or anything that needs to be presented?
I don't have anything unless somebody has a question. It's good. It's all good.
All right. Any questions or comments from board members? Okay, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself, motion passes. Item number 10, approval of AB 1200 public disclosure for unrepresented employees. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Maxon,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Richard. Any presentation or comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself, motion passes. Action item number 11, approval of 2021 to 2022 school plans for student achievement, Castaic Elementary School, Live Oak Elementary School, North Lake Elementary School, and Castaic Middle School. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Pearson,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Maxon. Is there any presentation or comments or questions that we need to address?
Just to note that we did update a correction to a couple of the plans. So you see at the bottom of the agenda, it said it was last modified at 5:42 today. So those are the most current school plans. And thanks to all the principals and their leadership teams for all their hard work on getting these aligned to our LCAP, and they're the right work for us moving forward.
Yeah, thank you. It's a lot of work doing those, so we appreciate that.
Not only that, because they're aligned now to the LCAP, they're so much easier to read.
I know. So true.
They were fun reading. I actually really loved it.
Yeah, it's neat.
Exciting to see what they plan to do next year. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself, motion passes. Item number 12, approval of curriculum associates quote. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Pearson,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Maxon. Are there any questions, comments, or presentation? All right, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself, motion passes. Item number 13, approval of Sunday System, Windsor Learning Incorporated 2021 to 2022 quote. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Move.
Motion by Mr. Richard,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Pearson. Are there any questions, comments, or presentation? Okay,
Kim, maybe you want to give a brief update because this is something new to us.
Right. So this is the Sunday system, and you may have heard of Orton Gillingham, which is a very well research-based, evidence-based reading intervention program, really primarily targeted to students who have dyslexia. But the Sunday system incorporates the Orton Gillingham strategies and techniques and makes it very user-friendly in a systematic way. And this will be used in our learning centers to support our students in all of their phonics development. And it is for all students K-6, so that we can provide intervention in those foundational skills in order for them to be more successful in their comprehension skills. So that's what the Sunday system is for. And thank you, Nicole Moynihan, for sitting in with me through all that training and recognizing what a valuable tool this will be for our staffs.
thank you, Ms. Tredick and Ms. Moynihan. Are there any questions or comments from board members? Okay, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself, motion passes. Item number 14, approval of 2021 to 2022 field trip list. It's really great to see that. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Maxon, And I will second this. So motion, second by Ms. Burke. Are there any questions or comments?
Is this the one that includes, sorry, I don't have the list in front of me, but is this the one that includes Northlake? Or is it just in general?
I think it's in general. Because are you talking about the fundraisers that with Northlake and CMS? Is that what you're talking about, Laura?
Is that the next one?
That's the next one.
Okay, go ahead.
Were there any, sorry, I feel like I cut you off, Mr. Doyle, but anyway, did you have something to say?
No.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon?
Aye.
Mr. Richard?
Aye.
Ms. Pearson?
Aye.
And an aye by myself. Motion passes. Approval of agreement with Key Analytics. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Pearson, and I'll second it. Second by myself. Are there any questions or comments or a presentation? All right, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon?
Aye.
Mr. Richard?
Aye.
Ms. Pearson?
Aye.
And an aye by myself, motion passes. Action item number 16, approval of 2021 to 2022 ASB Student Council fundraisers for Castaic Middle School and Northlake Hills Elementary School. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Richard, and I'll second this item, second by myself. Are there any questions or comments? Or I know, Laura, you said you had a question.
I do. I actually think, and it's not something that we need to stop it for, but just for future, we're approving things for the next school year, and the fundraisers on there and everything that was signed was signed by Vivian, not our upcoming principal. So I think it was a little weird that our past principal was on it, but not our upcoming principal. I know she doesn't start until July, so that's not a problem, but I just want to make sure she's on board with everything.
Yeah, we'll make sure we do that for sure.
Perfect, thank you.
Are these fundraisers pretty consistent with what has been done in the past, or are there like brand new ones that that would be unique to Vivian's when she was?
Most of them are the activities that have been ongoing, and so there's nothing like glaring new or different that she did because it was her thing. This list actually was generated from the teachers.
Okay, perfect.
Right, she doesn't make up the list, I'm sure. It's done based on the teachers, but because we have a new principal coming in,
Right.
Some new blood might be good and some new fundraisers might be good. So just my thought.
Absolutely.
Can something be adopted and brought to the board? I mean, for fundraisers, in the upcoming year.
Yes, she can go. The new principal has the ability to add things and bring it to the board when we do an amendment. This, like any document, is able to be amended. So
I don't have any problem moving forward with it, John. I just think that it would be good to have her on board, and you know what I mean? Because it's her school year. Yeah.
Yep, makes sense.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon?
Aye.
Mr. Richard?
Aye.
Ms. Pearson?
Aye.
And an aye by myself, motion passes. Action item number 17, approval of an amendment to the agreement between Castaic Union School District and Dr. Agnieszka Pazian. I hope I said that correctly. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Pearson
I'll second.
and second by Ms. Maxon. Oh, was there a presentation or any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon?
Aye.
Mr. Richard? Mr. Richard?
Aye.
Ms. Pearson?
Aye.
And an aye by myself, motion passes. Action item number 18, approval of independent contractor agreement between Castaic Union School District and Rose Munn. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Pearson, and a second by myself. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Action item number 19, approval of transportation services, or bus, it says, contract between Castaic Union School District and Hop Skip Drive Incorporated. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Richard,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Pearson. Are there any questions or comments or a presentation?
This is just a renewal, right? This is the same company that did it last time. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. If there are no other questions or comments, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Action item number 20, approval of renewal of Aries subscription. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Pearson. And I'll second this item, second by myself. Are there any questions, comments, or presentation? Hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Item number 21, approval of proposal from Tough Shed. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move. We need a
I'll
new one.
second.
Motion by Ms. Maxon, second by Mr. Richard. Any questions, comments?
I need to know why Janine's so excited.
I know.
Because the sheds have been there since I was a teacher.
I know. We had those issues for sure. So is this something, Jaime, that, I mean, I know that we need them and we're going to need more even. But once we're done with this whole process, then what do we do with them?
They'll be permanent. These will be the storage sheds they will use. And you're right, I think we will need a couple more built. We just need to get 2 built quickly. We've already emptied the old storage container that was on the kindergarten yard, and we need to move that out of there during the summer. This is just to get those items taken care of.
Yeah,
Okay.
my impression was this wasn't really related necessarily to construction. It was just time to replace them because they were old and they also weren't going to fit where they were with the construction, but that we planned on keeping them.
Yeah, it had to move because that's where the lunch shelter is going.
Yeah.
Placing it became an issue, and it's easier just to get 2 tough sheds built and not have to deal with an issue with those storage containers.
Yeah. So this isn't storage that has anything. I mean, this is just our ongoing regular storage that they need. So, okay.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Action item number 22, approval of proposal from Tri-Signal. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Pearson,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Richard. Is there, are there any questions or comments or presentation? All right, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Action item number 23, approval of the purchase of barred units from Gary Pacific. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Richard,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Pearson. Are there any questions or comments or a presentation? All right, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Action item number 24, approval of proposal from Westco. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Pearson. I'll second this item, second by myself. Are there any questions or comments or presentation? Okay, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Action item number 25, approval of roofing at Live Oak Elementary. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Richard,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Ms. Maxon. Is there a motion? I'm sorry. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Was there any presentation? There wasn't any presentation, right? Okay.
No.
Hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Item number 26, approval of the increase to Colby Technologies. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Pearson. I'll second this item, second by myself. Are there any questions or comments or any presentation that we needed? Okay, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Item number 27, approval of global change order number 12. Is there a motion to approve this item? I'll move. Motion by Maureen Burke. There
I'll
a
second.
second by Ms. Pearson. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Item number 28, approval of bid award from CEMAS Electrical Incorporated for bid number 2021-007 Castaic Middle School electrical repairs. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Maxon,
A second.
second by Mr. Richard. Any questions, comments, or presentation?
Mrs. Pearson, maybe you want to share that you did ask a question, and I think others might have a similar question. So.
I asked the question about, because it's electrical repair, is this something that we could submit to our insurance for reimbursement? So Jaime said he was going to look into it. A lot of the wiring is from underground, so they have to be able to get to that wiring and figure out if it's why it happened. It's initially underground, so it should be okay in damp, wet weather or dirt. But we're having problems because of it. So they have to figure out why it happened before we decide whether we can submit it to the insurance, but yet it has to be done. I also asked, do we have to do it right now? Because we're not even using the V building. But yes, it does before it gets worse.
Well, the problem is we have an elevator that's ADA access to the second floor with no power. So they'll start fining us.
But we're not using it.
Well,
I mean, we don't have kids in there. Yeah, I
The
know.
fire system too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big issue with the elevator was because if we want to take it out of service, we can place it out of service, but then we'll have to have it re-inspected and adjusted to get it back into service, which means engineers and other people involved. So it's just best to keep it up and running rather than take it offline and go through an inspection process. And as far as the insurance aspect goes, we do have a claim number. Once we pull the wire, they'll send an engineer out to take a look and see what the damages are. And they're working with us on the insurance claim, but I don't know what it'll end up. If we can get reimbursement, great, but we'll use restricted maintenance to make the repairs. And if we do get some recovery from an insurance claim, that'll go back into our restricted maintenance account.
I certainly hope so. It's a lot of money.
Let's wait and see. We'll keep our fingers crossed. And if an engineer does work with us, maybe we can get some recovery.
Good questions, Lauren, and thanks, Jaime. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Action item number 29, approval of proposal from RC Becker. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Pearson,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Richard. Questions or comments from? Okay, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Action item number 30, approval of lease with Rise. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move. Oh, I'll second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Maxon, second by Ms. Pearson. Any questions or comments?
I just want to say thank you to Mr. Doyle for bringing Rise on board. I think they're amazing. They've been great to work with. I get really great comments about them. And I love that they hire our employees to offer them some extra hours too. So I love that we've been able to build this relationship with them.
I
I
did owe that. Thank you. You're
I-
right.
I would- Yeah, I
Sorry.
would concur. They were invaluable during the pandemic to support some of our families that really needed that support. So we've had a great partnership with Frank for a long time. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
I
and an aye by myself. Motion passes.
Can I make one more comment? I know. I
Yes.
Maybe one of these board meetings, we could have Frank and his team and we can celebrate them because they have done a great job. If
Sure.
you guys don't mind doing that,
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah.
I think that would be really nice.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Janine. Great comment, and I agree. Action item number 31, first reading to adopt revised administrative regulation 4117.11, pre-retirement part-time employment. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Richard,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Pearson. Any questions or comments?
I just have to say, I'm glad there was only one of these on there.
I think Steve knew
Wait
better.
till next month.
Next month in like 2 weeks. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. Hearing none, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
I
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Are there any discussion items, Mr. Doyle? I don't see any.
No.
And were there any future agenda items that someone wanted to submit?
I guess just a question back to Janine's request about celebrating Rise.
Mhm.
We really have two options because the next couple months we have, or the next couple meetings, we have the ability to celebrate our district office people too. So our next meeting will be a virtual meeting, and that'll be our last virtual meeting, and we'll resume in person in August. So I guess the question is, would we like to celebrate Rise in person, which would be an August meeting, or celebrate them virtually? Is there a preference?
I'm up for in person.
me too.
Okay, so we'll invite them. So Sharman, we'll try to recognize them on the August 10th meeting or August 12th meeting.
And it would be a really great idea if we could get the word out somehow to the parents of the kids that are attending the RISE program. It would be great to have a nice turnout for them, since we're not limited on the amount of people we have to have there.
Ms. Vasquez, did you have a question? Sorry, okay, didn't mean to single you out.
Oh,
You
no,
waved.
I'll be there because my son's a RISE student now.
Oh,
So we'll be there to celebrate with banners and Charm too.
that's great.
Jackie, is he going to our schools now?
No, he's not. For the summer, he is.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, he wants to finish out with his peeps over there.
Okay. That makes sense. I was just like, wait a minute.
Yeah. He was tempted now that Mrs. Loscos is coming over, but I think his friends trumped her.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But it was considered.
That's great. Okay, so yeah, we will we'd love to celebrate them in August. So in person. So looks like there aren't any other future agenda items that anyone wants to bring forward. So we need to go back into closed session. So I just have a question for Mr. Doyle. Procedurally, am I closing open session, or are we adjourning? Or are we,
No,
like, how do I say this?
you're going to adjourn back. You're going to need a motion and a second to adjourn back to closed session.
Okay,
And then, I mean, technically, you're supposed to report out of closed session after you concur, but
right.
everybody will be gone. So we'll give you on your honor system that you're going to do that.
Okay. Okay.
And then are we staying on for the remainder of close and everybody's going away? Or do we need Dell to
Go
send
back
us
to the
some-
old link.
I don't know, Dell, will that old link work for them to just go back to the old closed session link, or is that expired?
That may be expired. If they want to, if everybody checks out and they want to keep it in this meeting, we can do that as well. And I'll just
Make Maureen the host?
Maureen the host and log
Okay.
out. Yep.
That's great.
Okay.
And
Okay.
turn off the YouTube video?
Yes, I will do that the
At
second.
least we can see it.
Well, actually, I have to pause it because I'll have to go live when you come back to report out. So.
Oh, okay. That's
Oh, but you're not
perfect.
coming back to report. Okay. Nope.
Okay.
Whenever you want to adjourn this, let me know and I'll end the
Okay,
live feed.
so we are going to vote right now
Make a
to,
motion to adjourn the
okay,
meeting.
so
To go into close.
To go into
motion.
close.
Okay,
Yeah.
so is there a motion to adjourn open session and go into closed session?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Richard,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Pearson. We'll now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Richard,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by myself. Motion passes. Our meeting is adjourned at 7:36 p.m. and we will now go into closed session.